We should know. We do know. We don't know. Maybe we know. Do we know? I don't know. Hey guys, Bernal Sabrin here. Welcome back to another edition of Field Talk Fridays, where we answer your agronomy related questions. And question this week is whether we can measure fall ammonia applications in the spring here ahead of seeding. Short answer is yes, we can measure ammonia, we can measure nitrates, but unfortunately it's not an easy thing to do in the spring, and it's not something that I myself have much confidence in. So we'll look at two scenarios. And the first one is applying anhydrous mineral band in a fall seeded crop like winter wheat or fall rye. So in a case like this, I have a little bit more confidence, and we've done it in the past. So in those typical cases, we are using mineral banders. We're putting on a certain amount of nitrogen. We don't necessarily want the fall crop to find it in the fall. It's more for spring, so that we don't have to get on with nitrogen as early in the spring. So in a case like this, where we know where the anhydrous bands were placed, now we can measure where the bands are versus where they are not. And what we've done in the past is we've taken 2x2 square metal tubing, and we've used that to core. So we'll core in the center where the band should be, and then every 2 inches going out from there. So now we can paint a picture of how much nitrogen there is still in the band, how much has it started to move. I mentioned we can measure ammonia and nitrate, so we can measure the stuff that's converted over versus the stuff that's still in the ammonia form. So in a case like this, we can paint a pretty good picture of what those bands have done. We do this at multiple places in the field, often based on topography. Depression areas are probably where we're going to lose our nitrogen. I'll talk more about that later. But the second scenario is fall applied anhydrous ammonia, where it's been broadcast, knifed in, and we don't know where those bands are. This is where I do not have as much confidence that we'll be able to pinpoint that in the springtime. So the reason I say that, there's a lot of different factors at play. Number one is, when was it applied? If it was applied, in September, early mid-September, a year like last year where we had unseasonably warm temperatures, soil conditions are still above 10 degrees Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit. There's lots of microbial activity. We could start converting that ammonia into nitrate in the fall already, where it is more susceptible to loss, especially in a spring where there's water sitting on the field. That's where we get our losses, whether denitrification or leaching. So in those types of scenarios, it's a lot harder to pinpoint, are we coring in a band, outside a band? We don't know. So what I would suggest in those types of situations is wait as long as possible before you want to put that nitrogen on to do those measurements. Give the time for that nitrogen to possibly convert over, to dissipate, even out, move around in the soil. There we can paint a much better picture, have confidence. I would also recommend to take more cores or too many cores. The more cores we take, the better picture we can paint, because better chance we'll hit in or outside of the bands. So that would be another thing. You can look at zone sampling. Typically where we lose our ammonia is in the subsoil, depression areas. So, the ridges versus the depression areas. So I mentioned already, if we had a nice open fall, nice warm weather from the time of application to the time of freeze up, there's a better chance of loss or of converting over, where we could have losses in the spring. But that brings me to the springtime. Is the field well drained? Was there water sitting on the field? What was the outside temperature or the soil temperature when there was water sitting on that field? The years where we've had serious spring losses, we do a lot of fall nitrogen application. Where we've had more losses is years where we're in a floodplain, so a late flood scenario. The soil stay waterlogged in depression areas underwater for 3, 4, 5 days in the spring. And if the temperatures, the outside average air temperatures are very high, like a mid-May, even early May, those are where we're going to get more denitrification. And if it's a sandy soil, that's where you would get more leaching, is when there's water sitting on that field. So if a field is well drained, where there wasn't much water sitting on it in the spring, I have more confidence that that nitrogen will still be there. But on fields that have depression areas that hold water, if it's been a slow melt, if it's early April that we get these flood or snow melt type situations, I'm more confident that we'll keep that nitrogen because the ground is still fairly frozen. But it's those late applications or even heavy rains in May that cause waterlogging, or our soils are usually at field capacity in the spring. those are the scenarios where we're going to lose more nitrogen. But yeah, it's a good short answer to the question. I don't have that much confidence in being able to, because we just don't know where those bands are. So it's very hard to measure and have confidence in those numbers. So I hope this answers the question. If you've got your own agronomy related questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below and we'll address them in due time. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoy these videos, like and subscribe. Check out the rest of our socials, and we'll catch you in the next video. Do me a favor, pass it along to friends that you think might be interested. It really helps promote the show. We'll catch you in the next one.